you got a brilliant introduction there. He's one of the brightest minds in Irish sport and Irish business, I'd go as far as to say. We're here obviously today to discuss a little bit about both of those and maybe sort of themes of leadership and that sort of thing. We're obviously speaking to an audience that would cut each other's throat for an extra Jen lower point, Liam, but I think like the sharing of knowledge obviously is a thing that maybe has come into Irish sport, maybe since professionalism in rugby and a bit of professionalism that's creeped into GAA over the last few years. Are we any good at that? Where are we at with that right now?
Yeah, I think, if you look for it, it's there. I know when I got the job with Tipperary back in 2007, I was looking around to know who I could talk to that might fast track my learning. So picked up the phone and rang Jack O'Connor. Jack lives in Carrick-Savine. I live in Neenah. It's a 4-hour trip, so it's a nice bit away. And I asked him for 15 minutes of his time, and he said, "Look, I'll be finished school. I'll meet you in a hotel there in Carrick-Savine." I got 4 hours with Jack O'Connor in the hotel, and he probably fast tracked my learning curve as a manager. Probably 8-12 months. He gave me basically his operating model in Kerry. And interestingly, it's a small world always in Ireland anyway, but he rang somebody that he knew, who was a friend of a person I knew, and his comment was, "I've just met somebody that I think is going to win All Ireland for Tipperary." So even from that point of view, having got a reinforcement of the conversation we had, I suppose I was mad eager, mad keen, but I was frantically taking down notes, and I just I felt I had really fast tracked my learning, because I was going into management. He asked me why I wanted to speak to him. I had my questions all lined up. I would have felt that his playing career wasn't of the magnitude where he would have been seen as an all-star player, and I was similar. I was only a bit player with Tipperary, so going in as manager, I was trying to see how he managed it and how he worked it. So I think you should always look to touch in with a person that's especially successful, probably has ingredients that are working really well for them, and I just take them and use them in my own structure. And I suppose Munster Rugby, Declan Kidney, Johan van Gran, all of those guys would be very helpful, because I never got Brian Cody to talk to me, or I never got some of the others, because you're in direct competition. But somebody that's in a similar type role that is using more or less the same type of skills and looking for the same type of results, I think is hugely beneficial. And definitely I would encourage anyone will have a cup of tea with you. I mean that, anyone will spare 15 minutes, half an hour, and if the conversation goes well, you'll knock a few hours out of it, no problem. Yeah,
well, it's a big part of the reason, obviously, the last couple of days have happened, but so the sharing of that knowledge or that expertise within the industry, so it's a no-no to hit up. Cody's obviously the chief example of it, but it's a no-no to hit up somebody who's in the same sort of space. So it's
well, if you're in direct competition looking for the same prize at the end of the day, that's you're not going to have that. But I mean, there's we'll say what I'm doing in Tipperary in a particular sport may be completely different to what Johan is trying to do with Munster Rugby. I'd watch his training sessions, he'd watch my training sessions, and just as I said, there's a sharing of knowledge, because at the end of the day, you're trying to be very successful. I mean, if there's a radio station in Dublin, there's a radio station in Tip, they're probably not targeting in the main the same audiences. So just I would place a huge emphasis and a huge value on finding a role model, finding someone that's doing it very, very well, and looking to see what I could learn, because it saves you the job of maybe making mistakes once, twice, 3 times. It's worked, it's proven. Just take it and run with it.
What did Jack O'Connor say to you?
Well, he told me about the importance of the mindset. He told me about the size of his backroom team. He told me about how he manages various players. He played a lot in terms of the leadership group, and what the importance of having a strong leadership group, the importance of having no egos, and making sure that the ego is managed within the group, and when is the right time to take it on. And he spoke about the importance of having the one-to-one engagement with your players, so that don't be trying to give a collective message all the time. There will come a time where you've got to take them one side on a one-to-one basis and have that quality time with each of your players. So, as I said, I had a notebook full of nuggets, I felt, walking away from Carrick-Savine. So it was, and I had 4 hours to think about them on the way home as well. So it was a win-win.
It was a win-win situation. And easier said than done, I presume, in terms of the implementation of it.
Yeah, no, look, I mean, but now the fun is in the implementation, really, and I mean, look, there's none of us are perfect. We make mistakes, and I've made loads of mistakes over my career in both business and in sport. But really, that's your learning opportunity, and you just got to learn, and like not making the same mistake twice is probably the really, really important piece. But yeah, look, as I said, the implementation is quite easy, because the people you're working with generally are only mad to grow and mad to learn and want to get on. And like no matter what game you're in, business or sport, all you want to be doing is operating at the top of your game. And once you're operating at the top of your game, there's no better place to be in life.
In terms of the 2 times that you've come in very successfully into the Tipperary setup, both times you came in, the teams were at a very low ebb. I think it's fair enough to say post Babs maybe in 08, and that had totally fallen asunder. So what are the main challenges with coming into a group like that? Is it easier in some ways to come into a group like that?
Well, yeah, I think, look, I suppose I would talk about the bounce back quite a bit. I think there's a bounce back in every group. I think in the main, Irish people are very resilient, so sometimes you don't get to tap into that bounce back ability until you're at the lowest of the lowest. And I talk about the trampoline. When I would be up on the trampoline years ago with my daughter, she was 12, I was nearly 50, so I go down much further on the trampoline, but because of that I can go much higher. So sometimes when you're seen as being maybe somewhere close to rock bottom, that's the time where you can really catapult back up through the gears. And I think that's a huge learning for me. And I don't really base on, I suppose, past experiences or learning opportunities. They don't linger on me. I think some teams and some people let maybe past experiences hang in them, and they carry them around like a 5-stone bag of potatoes above their back. I don't think there's any point in doing that. I always talk about a 1-year plan, and you learn from the past, you don't live in it. So I bring all the learnings with it, and I really go at 2019 for what 2019 is. I went at 2009, 2010 for what they were. And I think once you're in that mindset and, really just wiping the slate clean and going at it and just, I suppose, working really hard, because it won't just arrive at your doorstep. A work ethic, anyone that's on my team, and even for myself, I challenge myself to have a really, really strong and high work ethic, and working smart on the right things. But I think once it starts to happen and once it starts to come and everybody starts to buy in, it starts to become hugely, hugely enjoyable. And it's not a chore. It's really, really enjoyable. Anybody involved in a team or anybody as an individual, if the room is here and the money's here, but if you said, look, I'd really like to be operating in a winning mentality, winning mindset, and if that's the case, I'll go over there, and if I want to be a losing mindset, I'll shoot over there. There'll be no one in that corner. So the problem is that you can get into a rut and you can find yourself drifting into that corner over there. And the job of leaders and the job of me is to try and get people to see where they're at, see what can get them across the room, and start moving them chair by chair right across until they're over there. Because my experience of people is that nobody in any aspect of life wants to do a bad job.
I remember talking to a current intercounty manager at some point over the last couple of years, and he was talking about working with that group. So you've generally got sort of 30-ish players in a squad at any one time, maybe more, you'll tell me, probably maybe vastly more than that at times, but you're working really you're going to keep 17 or 18 of those players very, very happy because they're involved pretty much most of the time. Another 3 or 4 that are sort of on the fringes with a chance of getting in, and the way he put it at that time was there was whatever's left after that, you're almost fighting a losing battle in some regards to keep those players engaged. Is that your experience of it?
No, I think if you're experiencing that, you're dead. You're off the pitch, honestly. I would say the win in the All-Ireland last year didn't come from 1 to 15, it came from 20 to 40, because that's where the competitive streak has to come in. That's where, I suppose the week before the All-Ireland, I do 1-to-1s with all the players, but I wouldn't do 18, I do 40. So everybody that would be on the panel, because if you've got anybody in a setup that's negatively impacting the group or is having, I suppose in life you can either be one of two things, you're an energy giver or an energy sapper. And if you're sapping energy, if you've got 4 guys out of 40 of a panel who are sapping energy the week of All-Ireland, you're dead. There's no way you're going to get the level of performance that you're looking for. So
what conversations are you having with those lads that are, let's say, the 20 pluses?
Well, I think you stress the importance of their mindset and their attitude for the week. You stress that from the day that we started out, we knew the operating instructions, which means that 26 are going to TOG and 14 aren't going to TOG. But actually, how the 14 react and how they support, because ultimately at the middle of December, they all get to walk up the middle of the hall and pick up their Celtic Cross, which is ultimately why they got involved in the first place. So, it's a very, very competitive arena, but, you can have all the heat you like in a radiator. If there's somebody at the corner draining out all that water and letting out all the hot water, you've no chance, especially if 4 out of 40 are there and they're hanging on, and every time you get it warm, it's gone again. So I think it's really, really important that, I'm a big believer in everybody buying in, and once you buy in, I'm more than happy that you hang around. But if ultimately it's not for you and you can't buy into the playing whatever part you get in the 1 to 40, then we'll part company, because but my experience was, I had 40 start with me last November, and the very same 40 were still with me on the 18th of August when we went to play the All-Ireland final. 14 of them didn't talk, but in the middle of December they all got their All-Ireland medals. So I think that's the power of everybody buying in.
it's easier maybe in some regards when you come back the second time because you've had that success and there are plenty of advantages there for your methods, and the proof is there that you've gone on and won the All-Ireland. But the first time when you come in terms of that culture shift, will you talk to us a little bit about that, if there was a poor culture there previously, and how as a group you go about trying to tackle that?
Yeah, I'm a big believer that you cannot get the results or the team performing at its optimum level unless your culture is right. So I put a lot of work into culture, and I don't drive the culture. I build the culture from the bottom up. So in other words, like I really ask the players to say, what is the culture you want to create in this group? And when you walk into a dressing room or when you see the group together, you get a sense of the mood, you get a sense of the environment. But I think if you have a really good, strong culture and the environment is really, really high performing environment where everybody's buying in and doing their best, they know what that looks like. And when they start telling you about the importance of wearing the jersey 24/7 and how they carry themselves throughout the year, not just in the hours. Like there's 168 hours in every week, we might be together 10 or 15 max. So there's an awful lot of time where, and like if they really have that culture and are at one with that culture in terms of how they carry themselves as Tipperary players, I think that's hugely important, because I'm not just trying to make them better players. We want to make them better people as well. And I suppose even going back to 2010, I suppose one of the moments that would stick in my mind is seeing the four lads on the Late Late Show and the way they carried themselves after they had won the All-Ireland, because I think if you bring the person and the player together, I think that's really where there's a real benefit. And I'd be very conscious of that you try and make them better people as well as better players. And look, ultimately I surround them with very, very good people who are really capable at doing a really good job. I've no bother delegating. Like when you've got to try and look after all that goes on in an inter-county setup or in any business setup, you really have to make sure that you've got people around you can trust, not head nodders who just agree with everything, but actually really bring and add value to everything that they do, and you let them do their job then and do it to a really high standard. But being able to delegate to really good people around you is hugely important, definitely in a business and in a sporting setup.
Yeah, I know Owen Kelly, the captain that time, talks about bringing that well into March. By all accounts, is I think the aftermath of 2010 got dragged on a little bit, maybe longer than everybody might have liked. So yeah, just that I haven't spoken to Owen before about yourself and the impact that you had at that time, and with Lara Carr, but they were sort of falling over themselves essentially to talk about the what you brought into the camp at that time. They told anecdotes about they'd be at training somewhere, like you said, the squad might be spread around. You might have a group in Limerick, a group in Cork, you might have a group in Nina or Thurles, whatever it might be, but that you wouldn't be expected to turn up, and suddenly they'd see the lights flashing at the top of the hill and they knew you were there, and it gave them a bit of an impetus. Is it, in practical terms, simple stuff like that?
Yeah, I think all that makes a difference, because like if you are seen as being the person that has to lead the line, you have to set the standard. And if they were in the gym on a Monday night, it's very easy for me to sit at home and put the feet up, but ultimately just popping in and saying hello, and it's probably a really good time. There might be 6 guys in Clonmel doing the gym. It's a really good time to get a chat with all 6 in a, I suppose the training night is full on, because you don't really get a chance to have that engagement. So you get a chance to talk about what went on the weekend, you get a chance to talk about their performance, and you can have those little, just that touch-off kinds of conversations that to me are invaluable. So, as I said, I know their gym schedules from the Monday night and the Wednesday night, and I always used to try, where possible, just to pop in, touch in, and I suppose it made them know that, look, he was serious about this. And I suppose I always had a person that would call in anyway, just to make sure they were all there. So they had a guy from Bank of Ireland. I had a guy in Bank of Ireland in Clonmel, JJ, and the boys nicknamed him Snitch, because JJ would pop in the Monday night and they get the old phone call to say no sign of one of them there tonight. So, but I think if you're not bought in, it's seen as threatening, it's seen as overkill. But actually, when you are bought in and you're always there, it's no problem. There's great old banter. But as I said, me calling in, showing that I was committed to them being there and I was happy to go there myself. I think that's what leaders do, is they set the standard, and once everybody involved knows the standard, they generally come up to it.
Talk to us a little about success, and there's been plenty of it in your career, obviously, thus far, and hopefully more to come. Watching back an interview, I wondered when I watched it back, the interview post the All-Ireland this year, if you had the sound down, you wouldn't have known by your body language what had just happened. In fact, you might have sort of thought that Tipperary had lost. Similar story maybe in 2010. Is that, what level of engagement do you have in there? Is that you already thinking about the message you're delivering to your players? Are you thinking about the following year? What is it that stops you, I suppose, from, at that minute when the microphone's put in front of you, losing the plot with the joy that must be upon you?
Well, in fairness, Claire McNamara came for me about 6 times, and I said, "No, Claire, oh, gee." That's exactly why I told Claire McNamara to go away. But Claire McNamara came about 6 times. Like there is that time where emotionally you're not sound.
Yeah. That's why she came for you 6 times.
Yeah, you want to meet your family. You want to get around to all the lads. And once you've jumped all those hurdles, you sort of have come and you've leveled a little bit, and that's a good time then to talk. But it's probably overplayed the role of the manager as well. I mean, I would be a very, very small part of what is a really, really big wheel, and it's all of the ones that do all the job. Eamon and the lads had them coached to a really, really high standard. Carbs had them in unbelievably great physical condition, and I have a really strong backroom team and I have a really good group of players. So I don't try and. It's not that we really did enjoy winning in 2010 to 2019. We know how difficult it is to get to the top of the pile and put down your flag. But generally, if you have that 20-25 minutes, that's why I've seen in the Olympics and when the microphones put in front of them straight after the ring,
But there's no dodgy Russians in Croke Park is the only difference.
No, but you're just not right. You're all over the shop because emotionally you haven't settled. Whereas I like to sort of just get that few minutes, gather my thoughts, and because there's over 1 million people listening, so you have to be careful that in terms of how you carry yourself for the team. But look, All Ireland final day, I think the preparation doesn't go into anything. Everything goes in. All the preparations about what's going to happen between 3:30 and 5 o'clock. You don't really contemplate whatever is going to happen from 5 o'clock.
Really, you're
oh yeah, everything you do and everything you focus on is in your own performance, your own body language. I mean, from the time you qualify for the All Ireland final, I'd have a routine that I'd build for in terms of where the suits are delivered, where we're going for the pre-match. The preparation is just all boxed off, so that when you're standing there at 29 minutes past 3 and they're walking around the field with your arms folded, tick, 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 have all the boxes ticked. Now it's just a question of watching what's going on, making a few important changes that we feel could make the real difference in the match. But knowing it's a wonderful feeling standing there, knowing that you've done everything you possibly could to prepare yourself and the team to be ready for battle. And that's why preparation to me is really, really important. I put a lot of emphasis on preparation for training and obviously preparation for the big match days, because players are hanging on your every word, and you got to make sure that you're if you're talking negative, or if you're talking of what could go wrong or what might go wrong, that'll impact them. So your language and your energy and your enthusiasm and everything needs to come out, and it needs to be very sharp and very, 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 very spot on, really.
So some of that preparation from what you're saying there is to do with the team, obviously, in terms of the specific stuff like the kit, but also to do with your own communication, your own message, how you handle yourself. How much time are you spending that week or those weeks in the lead into it where you're actually managing your own performance almost?
Yeah, there's a lot, because there was a lot of people who said I was mad to go back, and that probably plays on you a little bit as you start to get close to the finish line. You might start to get a little bit giddy, or you might start to get a little bit nervous, and I felt maybe on the Tuesday or Wednesday it might have been getting a little bit, was just a little bit on edge. So you just have to step back from it a minute and just say, hold on a second, is there anywhere else you'd want to be on the week of the All Ireland final 2019? And you have to think about all the things you're grateful for, and just have a little bit of a moment where you realise, okay, we're in there now, this is exactly where you want to be. You've got to enjoy the next few days and the build up and make sure you do everything right. And then in terms of you put your work into what you want to cover before the match, what you want to cover at half time. You just have to have all of that in there. So there's nothing really that anybody could throw at me on All Ireland final day that should be a surprise to me, because I'd have all of that thought through in my head. I'd have all of the visualization and everything else that I need to do done, and you're coming there with a full tank of energy, because it does take a lot. By the time it gets to 12 o'clock on All Ireland final night, you're smashed, you're drained. It's very taxing. So you need your energy levels to be really up here on All Ireland final day. But again, preparation is something that I put a huge amount of effort and time into. I think if you get your preparation right, the performance generally can come on the back of that.
There's a lot of people here who've had great days out, obviously, with JNLR successes. We all have them every time the book comes out. It's an amazing day for everybody. Do you think much about your post-final success or failure communication? So in terms of when you're doing the interviews or when you're speaking with the players, or if it's the banquet afterwards, have you put much thought into because I suppose it's almost like the cliff edge, right? Like you mentioned the Olympics, and they talk about that 4-year cycle, and once it's over, it's done. So are you thinking about 5 o'clock, or are you thinking about actually there's still work to be done after that?
No, you are. You certainly are. I mean, I wouldn't have a drink until my speech at the banquet would be completed, win or lose. that's just me. There's a way you have to carry yourself when you're addressing the people of Tipperary and addressing the team. So that's something that I would be very, very strong on. You just make sure that for me, it only finishes at 12 or half 12. When the speeches and the meal are over. So look, everyone has their own style. I would have my notes prepared. I don't prepare anything for aftermath speeches until the game is over, because that, I want to focus on the game, because to me nothing matters only between 3:30 and 5:30. That's all I focus on pre-match. But then it's very easy. Just once I have the few headline points down, bang, 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 I'll get to cover all of those and make sure that I leave nobody out. Because I think that's important when you're involved. You've got to make sure that everybody that was involved in the success gets the due recognition that they're due. But yeah, look, again, I don't overthink any of that. I mean, I'm in a privileged position of managing my own county, and getting a chance to address the people of Tipperary, and it's a great feeling. I suppose I've experienced both, where you have to go into the room and explain why you didn't win, and then you have to go into the room and acknowledge the fact that we did win. But I suppose the big thing is that, for players, the big thing for me after the match is that you really try and embed in them, like, the importance of the win in the All-Ireland, the way that if you let it get yourself carried away, you're going to be in trouble. Maybe it might be 6 months, 12 months, but if you go down the wrong road of success, it's a dangerous animal if you ignore it. So just making sure that they stay grounded and they really carry themselves well as champions, I think, is hugely important to me as well. Sometimes, as I said, success can lead to poorer outcomes. So I'd be equally as happy about how the lads have carried themselves since winning the All-Ireland. Yes, they did enjoy themselves, but it only went towards Christmas this time, so it didn't quite run on far.
Lessons learned, is it?
Lessons learned, yeah. But no, because I think you do have to enjoy it. Like, if you don't treasure the moment, what's the point in winning it? Like, you do have to. Like, we really enjoyed ourselves winning the All-Ireland, because it's so hard to win it. But then, when treasure the moment, and then we move on, because there's a lot of fun and a lot of laughter around our camp. As I said, the two Johnnies and Pat Short and these guys come in and give us a bit of crack from time to time, because it's very hard to laugh and be in bad form at the same time. So laughter has to be a key part and a key attribute of the group and the environment, and we do enjoy ourselves. And the most pleasing part actually is not the 18th of August at 5:30. It's the journey from November right through to August, and all the wonderful memories you have along the way.
I hear Bono's doing the round as well at the minute. If you're looking for somebody to drop in, he's taking bookings. Failure is a conversation with Liam Sheedy about failure strikes me as maybe being somewhat short conversation, but what lessons have you learned? Because there was the maybe shaky days over your early years, particularly with the minors, that it would have been a point there, maybe a pivotal point where it might have been easier to have walked away, but the success came. But in terms of dealing with failure, it strikes me that at times we tend to get overly carried away with maybe a bad book, for example, or when the success comes, we think everything is right. And actually, sometimes the margin is much tighter than that. Yeah, it is. And look, anyone that hasn't had failure in their life hasn't lived really, because unless you're putting yourself out there for it not to go well from time to time, I want people to take risks. I want them to push themselves out there. So, like, if I was floating in the stock market the first time I was with Tipperary, it was definitely gone bust 3 times. Like, that's just the reality. I remember Kilkenny were 3-9 to 5 points ahead in the league match down in Nolan Park, and last year, or in 2010. We lost the Munster final. They lost the first round of Munster. We got the biggest beating by any Tip team in Cork. And last year we lost the Munster final to Limerick by 12 points. So, like, there will be days that it doesn't go well, but one day will not define you as a team or define me as an individual or a leader. So, and I think it's just having the base to be able to go back to and look at what went well. I suppose a lot of people would have pointed to 20 minutes where we were atrocious, whereas I was more interested in the 300 minutes where we were really well throughout the campaign. So you've got to try and find, what has allowed you to get here, what caused that to happen, and how do we move on again? Because when I'm put in a problem situation, I'm 10% in the problem, 90% in the solution. And I've had enough experiences in business and in sport where it hasn't gone well. But as I said, one day or one bad game or one bad outcome does not define me or the team. And actually, it's, we were, again, on the Monday, I called over to Thurles Gym at 11:30 on Monday morning after the Munster final, and there was 8 of my players in the gym, and I came back to Nina and popped into the gym in Nina, and there was another 10. Now, if we to win the Munster final, let's say Larry Corbett's would be the busiest shop in Tipperary. That's just the way it works. So we were already thinking about the All-Ireland series. We kicked into All-Ireland series mode straight away after losing the big day, and it probably did help us. We were able to say, look, next 7 weeks is going to determine who's All-Ireland champions, and that refocus, and we refocused really, really quickly. Yeah. On that refocus, so the failure doesn't define you, I think is a great point to take away. what it might do is make you question yourself, and maybe there's a positive outcome to that, but also make the group around you, whether it's sport or business, question you. How have you dealt with that?
Yeah, I've no problem getting loads of footage for the walls of the dressing room in the All-Ireland final, because I've been questioned loads in the last number of years. And that's the great thing, I suppose there's a lot of talk will come from outside the circle, and you bring that in, and sometimes what can be really negative looking outside, when you bring it in and internalise it, say, I don't believe that's us. Now we're going to get 70 minutes to prove. Is that right? Or are we right? So I think how you can turn sometimes what might be seen outside world as a really negative opinion, we can turn that into really, really strong positive. And as I said, some of the quality of stuff that's been written about us has really helped me. I was running out of wall space there at times inside the dressing room, but like that's a really important point, because we are very much sometimes public opinion and what people think outside can really influence our own thinking, our own belief systems, and allow us maybe start questioning ourselves. I'm long enough on the road to know that doesn't happen. We just make sure that the circle is operating to the best of its ability, giving it everything day in, day out, week in, week out. And after that, I live with any outcome. I just want to know that me and that group are bursting the gut every night to try and be the best version of themselves in anything that we do. And once they're doing that, I have no complaints. If we come fifth, we come fifth. But I know that we're doing everything and we're giving it 100%, and that's all I look for. Yeah,
because like the players or the staff can be obviously reading those pieces, looking at those pieces, and that can be impacting their mindset. They can have those thoughts themselves. They can be, Jesus, if only he'd have done this in the 65th minute, we would have got it done. Have you had players come to you with those conversations? Have you had to?
Yeah, but I think again we've got like Gary Keegan is on the mindset side. He looks after that aspect. I suppose when I started off first, I didn't realise the importance of what's going on from here up. Gary's unbelievable at what he does, because once that's right, everything flows from there. And I suppose making sure that the lads are in that their belief systems and the way what they're thinking and what they're seeing is really, really strong, so that they don't really have any doubts. Because the last thing you want is your head playing games that you're going out to play in an Ireland final with 82,000 people roaring and balling at you. It can be quite challenging. I really put a lot of emphasis in terms of making sure that we allow them to be strong in terms of their skill levels, strong in terms of their fitness levels, but also strong in their mindset and knowing that they can go out there and perform to a really high standard, because there's no better feeling as a player than being out there and just loving being out there and giving it 100% and it going well for you. And look, we as I said, it didn't really go well for us for long periods against Wexford. It didn't go well for us for the first 20 minutes in the All-Ireland final, but they had enough. They didn't really dwell on that. Previously teams, the first 20 minutes start would be enough to write them off. With us, we just kept playing moment by moment and eventually found a rhythm. And once we found a rhythm, we found a really good rhythm.
Yeah, the evidence is there. We're going to throw it open to some questions. So just throw your hand up if you've got some questions. We'll get a microphone to you. There's one. Yep, just here.
Nice, easy ones now.
Hi Liam, I'm just curious, because you were saying how you talk to all the individual players and that culture is extremely important. What's your take on the Gregor Townsend, Finn Russell saga in Scottish rugby, and how would you have dealt with it?
Well, obviously that's in the individual camp. Certainly my experience is that, there's no player that I've ever come across that didn't want to do really well and be the best version of themselves in the setup. There was something that was holding them back. There was a cloud or two in the sky. It wasn't really happening for them. Because, the players I had in 2009 were more or less the same players that were there in 2007. The players that I had in 2019 were more or less the same players I had in 2000. So sometimes, people say, change the people. I couldn't change the people. I felt I had probably the best players available to me in Tipperary, but you can't change the person. And that's really what I go after, and you try and break it down in a one-to-one, saying, what level do you feel you're at? Probably at a 5. What could get you to a 6 or a 7? Well, I'm not in the peak condition that I need to be. Probably need to do more work on my physical condition. Okay, are you happy I hold you accountable to that? Are you motivated to be a really best version of yourself? Yeah, he said, I feel I have something to answer here. 2019 is your opportunity to answer. And I'll hold you accountable in terms of what condition you get. If you are in the best condition ever, do you think you could be? What could you be? I could be hurled here. Now we're getting somewhere. So I think changing people so that they can see a pathway that gets them to be the best version of themselves. It takes work, it takes preparation. If I go into a one-to-one, I'd have all my nuggets prepared. I'd have the conversation lined up in terms of how I want it to go. Because all I want is that when they walk out the door, they're ready to take the hinges off, and they know I have someone in there that believes in me and I'm going to go for it. So as I said, sometimes it doesn't work, and sometimes the player does drift, and sometimes I can't get them back. But I tell you, I would move mountains to try and get that player to see. The one thing my mother left me with for the 90 years she was on this planet was you look for the good in people. And that's a big thing in me. She always looked for the good in people, and it's something that sits with me. So anyone I'm with, it's my job to try and turn them around and get them seeing and looking up. And because like operating in a comfort zone or not operating at your level is the worst place ever to be in life. If you're operating up here at the top of your game, it's the best place in the world to be. And our job as leaders is to try and change the person where they can see themselves where they're at, see themselves where where the bar is and how they can get there. Give them a pathway up and they'll take it on. Hope that helps.
Bernadette Prendergast, Galway Bay FM, so somewhat of an interest in hurling. In a strange way, I'm just going to link the last session with this one and the leadership in business and sport. And I think, Liam, it's probably very hard in the year immediately after winning the All-Ireland to try and do it again. We'd know a bit about that in Galway as well. But so just from a motivation point of view, say the election for us now in local radio, we all did a really good job, but it was a big burst. We had to really push the boat out to do it really well. If one comes up again, possibly in a few weeks, it will be hard to motivate teams again to do it. So what kind of tips would you have on motivating?
Yeah, well, I think irrespective of where you are on the scale, whether you're number one or number five, the first question you ask yourself is, are you operating at the absolute optimum? And we probably feel in 2019, although we were victorious, we probably haven't. I think the view would be that there's another level to be got. And I think once you're at the stage where you feel you're still not at the 10 out of 10, you can look to go through more heights. And look, it's certainly not easy because success does sometimes impact on us in terms of your motivational factors, the fact that you have one, and in terms of the fact you might now feel you're somebody and everybody around you is telling you're somebody. So I think it's a pathway that has proved difficult. But I mean, if you look at some of the best teams in the world, like success, they're never really happy. They're all the time looking for the next level. And, we honestly feel with our team that we can be better in 2020, and that's what we'll go after. Now, we could be better, and we still mightn't get ultimately where we want to get to, but if we keep striving to try and be better and the best version of ourselves, that's all we really go after. I don't focus on anything else outside of that, and that's really what we're going after. If we can crank it up another few percentage points, it should enable us to be competitive. But I think, understanding that, I suppose the mindset being, is there more to go for and have it, because cranking it up again and again and again, and I think sometimes it can be impacted on the fact that if we start thinking about 2 in a row and that sort of stuff gets in Tipperary, we haven't done that in 65 years, so there's no point in talking about it. But if we think about the next training session and how we can be better, I think once we focus on being better, that gives us the best chance of being better. And if we're better, well then who knows what happens.
More over here.
Hi, Joe Nash from Live 95 in Limerick, Liam.
A lot of competition in the room. Galway, Limerick, Kilkenny, you're all rolled out.
Well, we enjoyed the Munster final last
year. I bet you did.
More than the All-Ireland.
You're still the best team in the country.
Anyway, go away, Lisa. Anyway, it's a fresh year and all that. I'm just wondering if you have a player who's an absolute X factor for you, will you ever compromise on the other things to allow that player on the team?
No. No, but I mean, honestly, in a team structure, you have to buy into what ultimately the team is. If I've got somebody going south on an northbound train, next station, there's going to have to be, because the day it matters most, if the individual becomes more important than the team, you're in real trouble. So, as I said, talent is great, but give me hard work all day long. I think talent beats, I think hard work beats talent, because talent generally will be the ones that mightn't want to do the hard yards or put the overalls on from time to time. So, I just think, if it's a team sport, it's the team first. And once the team is first, I'm more than happy. I love individual. I suppose I love ambition in individual. I love to see individuals wanting to do really well, but not at the expense of the team. So, the X factor is what you contribute to the team. And if you contribute really well and the team does really well, you'll get loads of personal accolades on the back of that too.
Liam, Sean Barry, wireless. More importantly, a Corkman. Just to finish the set. Just a quick question. In terms of the screen that's behind you, it says Liam Sheedy, Bank of Ireland and Tipperary GA.
Yeah.
If you were to split the three of those, as you, the individual, sitting there as a leader of men today, how much of the three of those things, what split of the three of those things, I suppose, has completed you? So how much of you today is Liam Sheedy, that has always been Liam Sheedy, and how much of it is built from your corporate background, and how much of it is built from your learnings through GA, for example?
Yeah, well, I think every year you get every year you have an opportunity for learnings. You know, like what Bank of Ireland have exposed me to from a leadership perspective over the last 10 years, where I'm now provincial director. Like, there's massive learnings and nuggets in terms of dealing with people. I have a team of 500 in Munster. So like every year, you'll come up against things, and God knows we've enough challenges in banking over the last number of years to teach me a lifetime. So like, but the key, and again in sporting context, like I'm either managing Tip or I'm managing my own club team, or I'm off doing something else with some club team. Every time you're in that, you're put yourself into situations where your leadership and style is challenged, the way you communicate is challenged, but all the time you're upskilling, because you will get things wrong. So I think being involved and being exposed to managing people, leading people, I have done nothing in life on my own. Ultimately, everything I've achieved has been with or through people. I understand the importance of people, the importance of how we communicate with people, the importance of being able to get people to understand where they're at and where they're trying to get to, and helping them on that journey. But I use the very same tools in a corporate perspective as I do in a sporting perspective. I have a leadership style. That's the style I use, whether it be in business or in sport. And every year I'm topping up on that, whether it's through leading, whether it's through courses, or whether it's through most of my experiences have been experiential, where you're put in a certain situation in work or in sport, where you have to make decisions, you have to try and work yourself out of situations, and you have to get solutions focused. And I am very, very positive, because you have to be. There'll be enough of people in life that'll tell me what I can't do and why I'll never do this or why I'll never do that. But once you have that inner belief in yourself and you back yourself and you put a good team around you, anything's possible.
Come to you in a minute. We've one just over here, yeah.
Liam, how you doing? Dermot O'Leary. I don't know you, but the energy from you even sitting there is quite palpable. How do you have such energy for a guy that's clearly so busy?
That's really important, and something I place a massive emphasis on is my own energy. The week before the All-Ireland final, I was down in Fort Wyland for 2 days, and myself and my daughter were running around the pitch. Was down there probably for 50 minutes, 55 minutes. I generally do something 3-4 times a week. Joe O'Connor, who used to train Limerick there, has us in the, he has a MEPS reader for us, which is a little bit of competition between 6 or 8 of us in work, so I can see how many MEPS I'm doing and how many MEPS Mick Ryan is doing. So I don't, like, you cannot do this without energy, and I have to have massive energy, and sometimes it's a Brock on a Wednesday morning that gives me the old boost, but whatever it is, or it can be an early night or whatever, but you have to manage your own energy. If you're going to be around people, if your energy is low, the team energy is low. And I'm a big believer, anyone that sees me on the sideline at night, I am operating generally on a full tank of energy in work and in business. Yeah, well, it's something that, you know, Caroline would have done with me back in 2008, Caroline Curd, when she was with me previously. She really stressed the importance of my energy levels and what I needed to do to get my energy levels right. So it's something that you know, I pay a lot of attention to. Plus, from a health perspective, you never come back from a run in bad form. You might enjoy getting out there and getting to do it, but you'll never come back in bad form. So I think managing your own energy through activity is really, really important, whether it's a walk on the beach and sometimes you get the best ideas ever running around the field on your own.
Hi, Fionnuala Corbett, iRadio. Just wondering, obviously you're managing your native county.
Yeah.
In terms of your future managerial career, how interested would you be in coming into a county that maybe doesn't have the same history of success, maybe fewer resources, and maybe taking on that challenge?
Yeah, well, I spent 2 years up in Antrim previously before going back into Tip, and that was probably the one that gave me a little bit of it stoked my interest again in managing and being around top players. But unfortunately, Antrim, like, you lose a match in Antrim by a point, you have a 4-hour drive home. Like, it's the worst experience of your life because you have 4 hours to think about it. But no, look, I love, I see what Antrim are trying to do from a sporting perspective. Like, they're up miles away from everyone else, and there's some really, really passionate GA people up there. So that's something like that would interest me, because I'd love giving people that wouldn't be exposed to maybe people like myself that often, because you just couldn't make the commute. But unfortunately, it's very hard to have a full-time job and spend a realistic amount of time up there. But that is probably helping somebody that would be of the lesser, bigger teams is what would interest me, and that's why, as I said, we went up there as All-Ireland champions up to Antrim 2 weeks ago, and I suppose the experience we had up there and the way the people reacted to us up there was just fantastic. So as I said, it's nice. Like, I think hurling's the best game in the world. So I just think everybody should be given a chance to play it. So if Tipperary's visit to Antrim helps 10-15 kids to pick up the hurling and go play hurling, I think it is a good outcome.
Would you ever think about doing a Jim McGuinness on it? Get into professional sport full time?
No. It's like hurling will never go professional, and it's nice to be involved in your own and working with your own county. Just being involved with teams and being involved with people is something that, when you look at Munster rugby and you see them at full time, you have to say, geez, I wonder what would that be like. But sure, wouldn't have a clue about rugby, so there's no point in even thinking about it.
Hi Liam, Gabrielle Cummins from Tipperary, Thurles, and CEO of Beat. I just wanted to ask you, obviously radio stations, we cover lots of sport, and listeners, we're the place they go to find out about sport a lot of the time. Where are you on the media ban? Oftentimes leading up to matches, it can be quite difficult to access the players, and it can be quite frustrating for us when we're trying to cater to our listeners who are crying out to get inside information.
Yeah, well, for all of the championship matches, we run a media afternoon. So I'm very clear with Joe Bracken. I got in real trouble last year because one of my players went and it was for a Fitzgibbon piece, and he said he wasn't going to talk about Tipperary, so I actually had to go pull it back and run it. I actually ran a media afternoon in Thurles because I worked in media myself, obviously being with the Sunday game. I know the importance of having players out there on local radio stations, on the wider, because they make a real impact with people and with local communities, hearing their local heroes. So we generally we do an hour session. I come along for the All-Ireland final. I think it was myself, one of my backroom team, and 6 players that we brought to the media day, and we do the Sundays, and then we do the locals, and then we do the radio stations. So that's freely available from our perspective, because I certainly would see the importance of having a really good relationship. I think the media tell the story of the GA, and that story needs to be told time and time and time again. We have ultimately still only have 40%. Like, I'm on the Sport Ireland board, and the thing that irks me all the time is 4 out of 10 people are physically active or doing something, irrespective of whether it's a GA club or whatever club they're in, and that is the biggest thing that we have to work on in the country, in my view, is to get those 6 out of 10 active. And if players being on and exposed to radio and TV supports that, I think that's a really, really important thing, and something that we can't do enough of it. So you have a big job in terms of trying to spread the word and the importance of being physically active, with the GA playing a major part of that. And likewise, for if you take all the cool camps, like 7 out of 10 of those young boys and girls, by the time they get to 21, are no longer playing Gaelic games. So they're the biggest challenges that we face, and it's much bigger than winning All-Irelands.
Thanks a million. There's great questions there, so thanks a million for all that. I feel like, I don't know if anybody's seen the story today about the 10-year-old kid in Donegal. He's a Manchester United fan, and he wrote off to Jurgen Klopp. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Wrote off to Jurgen Klopp, and he said, listen, could you just stop beating teams? which I thought was reasonable.
I'd love to get a letter like that.
And given the spread of hurling stronghold counties that have spoken so far, I feel, as a proud Westmeath person, I should make a plea to you now ahead of Sunday to go easy on us if you can. We started off the conversation by saying that we were going to speak to one of the brightest minds in Irish sport and Irish business. I think the last 45 minutes has demonstrated exactly that. So if you could put your hands together, please, for Liam Sheedy.
Thanks very much. Sorry about the water.